Hi, in this video I'm going to talk to you about the Astrology Reading Cards by Alison Lambert. Now, the fact that she has a fantastic name, Alison, it just goes without saying that I would love these cards. I also invite you to subscribe, like and share this video with anyone who would be interested. Hi, I'm Alison. Not Alison Lambert, but Alison Price, an astrologer in Vancouver. Now, I've been doing astrology for many years, and although a lot of your time is actually spent working on charts, going through with clients and meeting with clients and preparing reports or something like that, on a side note, it's almost as though you need some props when you're doing astrology. I wouldn't say you need them, but having some props is really a good thing. As a Leo, this definitely appeals to me. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the Astrology Reading Cards that I've had for several years. You can order them in the link below from Amazon, and they're rather nice. They come with this handy little book, and in it is some interpretation examples that you could use. And of course we just toss that aside because who was going to read that? Then we get to the cards, which I find are very interesting. What I like about these cards is that the artwork itself is very nice. It's very mystical, very almost spiritual, it's very ethereal, and I kind of like that. Many of the images are quite dark, and I'll show you a few as we go through. So these cards there are 3 sections to the cards. I'm just going to sort them out here. So what you have is, you've got your zodiac sign cards, so there's 12 cards for each sign of the zodiac. You then have your planet card, so there's 1 card for each planet that you'll be using, including Chiron, in your readings. And then there is 1 card for each of the 12 houses. So each of the actual houses has its own card, and they are in the green. And then each of the planets has its own card, and they are then in the blue. And then each of the zodiac signs, the 12 signs of the zodiac, has its own card, and they are actually in the purple. So for instance, each sign of the zodiac, here's the card for Aries. That's great. It's a beautiful image. I'm going to give you some close-up shots of those images. The way I work with these cards with my client is, if I'm not meeting them face to face because we're in lockdown at the moment, I will shuffle the 3 piles separately. So I will shuffle the zodiac cards by themselves, I will then shuffle the planets cards by themselves, and the houses cards by themselves. And then I will choose 1 card from each pile. So I will end up with 3 cards, a sign, a planet, and a house card. And then we will turn them all over and discover, gosh, what does this mean? So for instance, here we have Aries, so in this particular instance we have Mars in Aries in the 7th house, and that would be the 1 pull I would do. So you're pulling ones, and you're pulling 3 cards, 1 from each pile. And ultimately this can give a total roundup of what your actual session was. So as an astrologer, you will have the consultation, you will have had your tea, you will have gone through and done the interpretation with your client and so on, spent an hour with him or her, working through their chart. And then at the end, I will either do it myself if we're on Zoom, or if I'm meeting with my client face to face, as we did back in the day when we met people face to face, I would then get them to shuffle these cards, shuffle these three piles, and choose 1 card each. And what I often find is that the 3 cards that are chosen totally underline the whole thing about what the recent session was about. So Mars in Aries would be a great thing to discuss now, because of course Mars is in Aries for the latter part of 2020. So it's quite a good bit of energy that came through anyway, which I just randomly picked out of my piles. The point is that it's an interactive way to connect with your client. It's also a way to round off your consultation. So after you've been sitting there with your client for a while, and you've been talking with their chart back and forth, and it's all maybe a little complicated, the actual diagram, you then get the opportunity to come in and pull a few cards that are tangible, that they can touch, and they are choosing the cards themselves. And technically, maybe technically is not the word, but the idea is that if you shuffle cards and you choose the one, you're running your hand across the cards to choose the one you want. It's the energy of that card that the person is actually going to pull. So in this case, the 6th house, for instance. This is the nature of why cards work, and it really does work better if your client can shuffle and touch the cards themselves, because then they're actually drawing the cards that are totally relevant to them in the moment. However, in the virtual world that we live in now, I have to do the pulling of the cards because we're not meeting people face to face. Now, the advantage of doing it this way is that I don't have to cleanse the cards after a client has touched them, because anytime someone has come in and touched your cards and these cards have gone into their aura, which is about 10 centimeters from the edge of your skin, they are going to have influenced these cards. And when someone else has touched your cards, tarot cards, whatever cards you're using, you need to cleanse them. You need to either have them in sunlight, moonlight. There's many ways to cleanse cards. I can talk about that another time if you're interested. But when I'm doing it on Zoom, I am the one actually touching the cards and doing the pull, so I don't have that added issue of having to cleanse the cards for 24 hours after my last client has used them. And don't get me wrong, I'm not cleansing the cards because maybe there's germs on the cards. It is the psychic energy that is touched as the cards enter somebody else's space, entering their aura. It's like when you're standing too close to people, you're within their aura, it's an uncomfortable thing. So ideally, if you use cards for clients, you do need to cleanse them, and any tarot reader will tell you that. And the idea is that you want to in some way cleanse them or work with them to clear the energy again, so that the cards are then fresh to use again. You want your cards to have your energy on because you are trying to interpret them, and that's a benefit too, to only you touching your cards. When I used to do a lot more tarot readings than I do at the moment, I would have 2 packs of cards. I'd have the one that only I touched because they spoke to me better when I was doing interpretive reading. So I only like to do the reading with the cards that I had touched because they spoke to me better, because they were constantly within my aura and were connecting with me psychically as well. So that is why you would, ideally, if you have 2 decks of cards, that makes sense. Even though when you are using the second deck that you're using for your clients, you actually want to cleanse those as well after clients have touched the cards. But that's just a by the by about cleansing cards in general, tarot cards and any types of reading cards that you may have. So I'm just going to go through a few of the cards so you can see the actual artwork in them and see how nice these cards are. They're quite a generous size as well, glossy on both sides. It's a pleasure to use these cards. I do enjoy the images on the cards. So for instance, for the one on Leo, let me just say, the energy is flamboyant, dramatic, proud and passionate. It focuses on the importance of self-belief. And there are small notes at the bottom of each of the cards explaining what the card means. So really, if you're an absolute beginner, you can still start to read these cards yourself. You don't have to be an advanced astrologist or an aspiring astrologer to actually benefit from using these cards. Each card has a little piece written at the bottom just explaining in a couple of sentences what the actual meaning of that sign, planet or house is. So these are quite great. I'm going to scroll through a few of them now and just go over them with you. I'm Alison Price. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.